There is no change in the original controlling shareholder, which continues to be Bakri.
Okay.
And it is a joint and equal partnership.
Okay.
So there is going to be a joint control. So Bakri have put in money, they have put in money.
Okay. So
that's how it's going to work. We believe that it will be synergistic because there is no debt overhang.
Okay. Okay.
Obviously, it will strengthen the relationship and it will enable us prosper and grow further. Particularly in today's environment where everyone is looking at green and everyone is looking to diversify. And many players in the coal sector have already announced various projects.
Yep.
And for international funding and even local funding is impossible from banks and institutions for any project related to coal. So our attention will be to strengthen our coal business. KPC and Arutmin will continue to be a cash cow. And the cash we generate can be used to develop the non-coal diversification and the downstream businesses. And we can always use our coal supply, for the coal downstream related projects.
Okay. So it will stick on the internally finance, yeah. So you will use the retained earnings, you will use the earnings from the KPC and the Arutmin to...
No, we will not reduce the earnings. We will try and increase the earnings. But we may not increase capacity. But this year, we have lost about 10% of production because of rain. Maybe next year, we can get a higher revenue if the rain is...
Okay.
I mean, just to put it in perspective on revenue, in 2021, our revenue was $5.4 billion on a 100% consolidated basis. This year, you can do your arithmetic. We have said 70 million going up to 78 million. You can take and we have guided a figure of $120 to $130 per ton. So 12 into 7 is 8.5 billion, 78 into 12 is 9 billion. But we can also get $130 per ton because Q3 prices are higher than Q2. And Q4 prices will obviously be higher than Q3. So the second half numbers will be far, far superior to the first half numbers. And we'll be putting out our Q3 results in the end of October. And you can get an idea from there where our Q3 numbers will be. They will probably be far, far, far higher than Q1 and Q2 put together.
Okay. So from your clue, I think for your forecasting EPS, 30, 40?
Well, I'm not a magician nor a forecaster, Bernard. But I think in previous calls, the CFO had indicated that our full year 22 net income, this is before all the rain business became worse, was that we would be at least 3 times higher than last year and could even hit 4 times higher than last year.
I see. Yeah. Because
and you all are very good at arithmetic, so you can work out your earnings and your EPS and all that.
yeah. Thank you for the clue. So I think I know roughly about the EPS number that you will create it within this year, full year 22.
Yes, definitely. Basically, we are highly undervalued. I'm not just talking about PE. I'm also talking about we have one of the highest reserves of coal in the country. And if you look at the Samuel Equity Research Report, basically they've said that the basic fundamentals for Bumi, which is important for investors to note, that the value of the reserve per ton of coal that Bumi has is at least 3 times lower than any other coal company.
Yep.
Now that's the basic fundamental. And that is what investors should be looking at when they compare companies, because the others don't have the quality and they don't have the volume that we have. Nor can they produce as much quantity as we have.
Yeah, and I think after you release the new share for the non-preemptive right, I think the price at 150 still in a good way, in a good price, yeah, compared
Look,
to company.
when the outstanding shares were 36.6 billion,
Yeah,
before
yeah,
the 2017 restructuring, the share price was 50.
yeah, 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 yeah,
It
yeah.
came to 74 billion, it was also 50.
Okay,
Now, if you
and
look at year to date this year, the lowest is 51 and the highest is 246. And currently, it is running at, I think the year to date average would be more like 120, 130, 140. Now,
okay,
if your share price was 50 rupiah on $36.6 billion, and if the share price today is 140, 150 on 143 billion shares, basically it means that what was 50 rupiah in 2017 is 150 rupiah.
yep,
And
yep,
that is the level at which the share price is today.
yep,
Now, the question is, Bumi is the highest traded share on the stock exchange. It's been so almost every day for the last 2-3 months. Now, why should people invest in a company and trade so much if there is a doubt on the credentials of the company or the merits of the company?
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Obviously, people see some kind of a synergy and hope for the company, which is the highest quality in the coal sector in Indonesia and probably the world. And they know it has been depressed for unavoidable reasons in the past. We had taken the loans to invest and grow our businesses, like the metals area and the other areas.
yeah, yeah,
And then we were hit by the recession. We were hit by very low prices in 2015 and 16, which forced us to restructure. Then we were hit by the pandemic. And now, because of the rain, when we can sell more at very attractive prices, we are unable to sell because of the rain. And on top of that, we have the DMO and we have the subsidized price at which we supply PLN. And we are the largest supplier to PLN, which means we supply about 18 million tons a year. And if we export that quantity instead of supplying it to PLN, we will get an extra $80 per ton. So 18 million tons into 70, 80 million dollars per ton of price that we subsidize PLN is almost equal to $1 billion of revenue. And the third factor you have to take into account is the royalty rate.
yep,
Now, KPC and Arutmin are the first companies to attract the new royalty under IUPK. So from last year's royalty of 13.5% across the board for export and domestic has now gone up. 13.5% has become 14% even on the subsidized price to PLN.
yep,
And on exports, it has gone up to 28% because the benchmark price is always higher than 100.
yep,
So in effect, our royalty has gone up by 10 or 11%. So we have lost revenue of $1 billion because of rain. We are also paying higher royalty of $1.5 billion compared with last year. And we are also subsidizing PLN to the extent of $1 billion. Now, if you add all that to the bottom line of Bumi, Bumi should be making a profit of $2 billion a year quite easily, even on 51% KPC. But then we are a national company. We are a nationally sensitive company. We look for projects. We like to help the government. We are the largest payer of royalty in the sector. We pay more than the next 3 coal companies put together. I mean, if you add Adaro, if you add Perao, you add the third, Kideco, Bumi still pays far more royalty than what they do. And this year we are paying maybe more than twice that. Okay?
And the most interesting
Now,
part,
I'm saying the second is we are the highest foreign exchange earner in the sector.
Yep.
And naturally, our volume is the highest. And the third one is that we are one of the top taxpayers in the country. So basically, what investors need to understand that we are a national vital object. We are a national company. It is run by Indonesians. And we like the nation to grow and prosper. We like the nations to have power. We don't just want to blindly export. We also do that. But in the process, we are employing 20,000 people. We are looking after a community of 250,000 people. We are spending a fair amount on CSR and ESG. We are the best. We are also doing emission reduction and climate actions. And we are spending a fair amount of money on that. Now, all that is reflected in our profit, and yet we are making a profit.
Okay. So I believe that with all the challenge, Bumi still can generate the profit. And the next question is, I know that we have all the reason to invest in Bumi stock, but the question in every investor had for now about the dividend policy in Bumi. As we know that other coal company have a dividend policy which is quite interesting for the investor to keep the
See,
stock.
the other coal companies are not paying the royalty we are paying.
Okay.
We are paying an extra $1 billion of royalty, maybe $1.5 billion. We are
Okay.
also subsidizing PLN the most. The other people are not supplying the quantity we are supplying at a subsidized price. Okay. Now, then you have the rain effect. Now, what is our problem in paying dividends? Our problem in paying dividends is that as we invested to grow, in 2015 and 16, the coal price collapsed. It became $48 per ton.
Yep.
So we could not service the loans, so we had to restructure. Then our interest cost at that time was $450 million a year. Now that 450 last year was 200. Next year it will be zero. But we had losses in some previous years. Now those accumulated losses need to be neutralized. Now we hope that with the generation of super profit, and we began the profit journey last year again, and will continue to do so this year, and next year should be even higher. We should be able to reach a stage where we are inching closer to becoming retained earning neutral. And in the end of 2024, I think there's a possibility that we can revert to dividends.
Okay. So
Now, if the coal price goes to $500, $600 per share, I think we can accelerate the whole process. If the gods are kind and there is no rain, maybe we can add another $1 billion, $1.5 billion to our revenue. If PLN is willing to pay a higher price, maybe they can help us get dividends to shareholders.
So let's forget about the faster pace. Yeah, just hope that 2024 you can give the dividends, right? Because
Well, that is, see, let me tell you one thing. That in the past, when we had all this debt, our dividends were actually going to the lenders. So naturally, there was nothing left over for equity. And besides, because of the restructuring agreement, there was no way in which we could pay it. And even if we wanted to pay it, we couldn't do it because of the negative retained earnings.
Yep.
So our objective now, and I think the controlling shareholders, their objective would be to get Bumi's profitability increased, reverse the negative effect of the retained earnings, and get on to dividends. After all, how much dividend does Bayan pay? How much dividend does Adaro pay?